received. Ashley Goldie sent out an email to Stitch for a while ago as well.
Yep, I see.
Okay.
Hello, welcome everybody to the May 21st. The August 27th, I'm looking at the minutes, not the agenda. The August 27th, 2018 meeting of the Newmarket Budget Committee. We'll start with as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as I was saying before we came on camera, this is the August meeting where we traditionally overestimate how early everyone will be back from their summer vacations. Joan and Ashley both indicated they weren't going to be able to join us tonight because they are still out of town. And Elizabeth, our school representative, is at the meeting that the superintendent's hosting at the high school tonight to go over the progress on construction. Superintendent Nato may join us later if they wrap up earlier than we do, although my very strong suspicion is that that meeting will go longer than ours. So if it happens, happy coincidence, I suppose. First order of business, the minutes from the May 21st, 2018 meeting. And did anybody happen to see anything in there that was at odds with what you recall about the meeting?
I did, and I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 21/2018.
I'm very out of practice. Thank you, Mickey. Appreciate that. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Dave. So we have a motion to approve the minutes from May 21st. Does anybody see anything in the minutes that doesn't look correct? Well, see, it's right here in the minutes that the parking at the high school would be off limits from June through August, so we knew. They look good to me. Yep. So all in favor of approving the minutes from the May 21st, 2018 meeting of the Budget Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are unanimous in our limited capacity. The other thing I hope to go over tonight was the calendar for the 2018-2019 budget season, but two limitations on that. One, obviously we have a lot of folks who aren't here, and also I wasn't able to connect with Steve Fournier, the town administrator. I wanted to confirm with him my understanding of when the town meeting day would be in March, so that we could sort of work backwards from that date as we normally do to work out when we need to have certain things approved and submitted and signed off on. So I'll take that action item for next month's meeting, that I'll connect with Steve, make sure we understand what the calendar is likely to look like through the winter and the spring. And for next meeting, I'll distribute a calendar to everybody with proposed dates for our meetings that get us there within the statutory timelines.
Will we most likely be meeting the 24th of September?
Yeah, we'll do the last Monday in September. So thank you, Trevor. That's a good point. September 24th will be our next meeting. I'll definitely make sure I get an agenda out much earlier next month.
Do you think we can get numbers from the town?
Yes, I believe they should have, if not completely final numbers, then pretty close to it by then, and the schools as well. So we'll try to go over those. The next meeting might be a little longer than we've become accustomed to, so.
Well, that would be good to review all that before we get into budget season, so we know where they finished.
Yeah, I mean, the preliminary indications from both the town and the schools were that they were tracking in line with expectations. This was back in the spring, and I've definitely not heard anything contrary to that. So typically, if, Steve in particular is not the sort who likes to come in here with big surprises, so my guess is that probably hasn't changed, or we would have heard something about it. Anybody have any other business they'd like to bring to the meeting? Blue?
For our next meeting, if we could put on the agenda, talking about the reallocation of the amended budget funds that was used instead of for staffing at the school. I'm talking about school budget, sorry.
Okay.
And reallocating that towards a school resource officer at the elementary school and the process of how that was done.
All
I would
right.
just like to have an open discussion with our committee and get some input from the town council rep and the school board rep on how that process was done and vetted.
So this would be the additional funds that were added at the deliberative session?
Specifically with the intent of keeping positions at the school and then reallocating that towards a school resource officer, yes.
All right. I'll give the superintendent and the school board chair as well as much heads up as I can.
And also with that, with the town administrator, in the minutes, it cited, they used RSA 31:95B or something like that, whatever it was. I have it here. Just the explanation of how they're receiving the funds from the school to pay for the school resource officer.
What was the RSA you were?
Oh, boy, you're gonna put me on the spot, aren't you?
Uh,
Rule 31:95B.
And that was what the town was using?
The town's going to receive those funds from the school, so I'm just wanting question of,
Okay,
what are they calling it? According to that rule, the majority of it, from what I read, talks about gifts or grants from state, local, or federal or private funds coming into that's gonna be going into the town budget, coming from the school.
I see.
What are they calling it? How are they allocating it? All of that.
Because I remember that meeting.
Yeah, I believe Steve had mentioned something like treating it as kind of an unexpected donation, something like that. I can definitely check with him and get more clarification, especially on those minutes from the meeting. Bring something of substance.
thank you.
I definitely value the discussion as well, so.
Yeah, so I'm very glad you brought it up, because I know it's something that I've heard a certain amount of public interest in the topic.
Well, for me specifically, having the discussion of the reallocation of the funds and the process of that entire budget cycle and how it was done and how the school board decided and the administration decided to reallocate those, I have some questions to the
Okay.
appropriate people.
No, I thank you for bringing it up. I'll certainly let, like I said, both the school board chair and the superintendent, as well as Administrator Fournier, know that it's a topic we'd like to discuss with them, and they're potentially, I guess, and this is not me speaking as the chair, just speaking personally, there's been some other position shifts within the administration and the elementary school that I find kind of interesting from a budgetary standpoint. We now, from what I've seen, have 2 assistant principals.
Both schools.
Okay, well, I knew about the elementary school for certain, the high school, I suppose, as well. It's, just, again, another thing I'd sort of be interested in hearing the thought process, whether this is more a formality or whether there's some actual budgetary substance that goes along with those title and position changes.
Especially as we're going into the contract year this year, they're negotiating the contract this fall for next spring.
Correct. It's
Yep.
not ours to negotiate.
No, but
we know it's
we
been a
need to- it's
contentious
coming.
issue.
Yeah, it's coming.
In the past, and if it's likely to have a tax impact going forward, it's certainly within our purview to ask some questions and discuss. Other business, anybody would like to discuss? Zach?
Yeah, for those of us who are not as seasoned as the rest of us, when we move into budget season, typically what is the meeting structure like? I'm assuming it's not still just the once a month meeting since town budgets are massive.
Correct. In past years, and it seems to work reasonably well, although we can certainly talk about other structures, but we invite in separate meetings the town administrator to come in and give a presentation on his budget, usually after it's been blessed by the council, I believe. So we don't ask him to go through it before the council has had a chance to act on it. Similarly, the school superintendent will come in, and both of them being supported by the business administrator, obviously, will come in and give an overview of the proposed budget. And along with that, or hopefully in advance of that, we get sort of the line item ground up budget in essentially sort of a spreadsheet form so that we can all go through it. Customarily, the data we get shows prior year as proposed by the town administrator or the superintendent, as approved by the school board or the town council, and the year-over-year variance all laid out on a kind of a reasonably granular line item level. It's
Similar to how it's presented at the deliberative
Yes.
sessions?
exactly.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
So we'll have those sessions, we'll have our chance to ask questions. We typically reserve maybe one available meeting date in between in case something of substance comes up that needs to be changed. And I'm trying to phrase this delicately, but that the school
need more
board or the town
information
council might decide to change based on our feedback at the discussion session, the workshops.
Yeah,
Then we'll have a public hearing on the school budget, we'll have a public hearing on the town budget, and it's actually usually in the opposite order. The town usually goes first, where we all essentially go on the record as we go through the budget with our feelings, thoughts, opinions. If somebody here among this group wants to advocate for a change to the bottom line dollar amount for the budget, which is really the only change that, we don't have line item authority. We can propose changes to the bottom line. And, they would make that motion and lay out their rationale for why they believe we should do that. We would vote on it up or down, and then the final vote that we take is to endorse or not endorse the town operating budget and the school operating budget. And that's the basis for what shows up on the ballot, recommended by budget committee 10-1 or 11-0 or whatever it is. We would also, at both the workshops and that session, go over any other warrant articles that have a tax impact. And I guess that's an important thing to lay out. Just as an example, the warrant on the town ballot last year on Keno, we had no say on that because it had no tax impact
okay,
on the
thank you.
town. Then after that, there's the deliberative session, which we sit up front and look pretty, and
Oh, I was here for that.
yeah, okay. Well, we're there essentially to address any concerns or questions that
To speak
voters.
to the endorsement.
Right, exactly. If anybody has questions about why we did something, why we endorsed something or didn't endorse something, that's what that's for. Again, typically we'll reserve one meeting date after the deliberative session in case there are additional warrants brought by the voting body. What's the term I'm looking for, Dave?
Petition warrant.
Petition warrants, thanks. As well as if the deliberative session votes to amend any of the warrants, then we'll have to re-vote on endorse or not endorse.
Okay.
So that's the process. In past years, we've typically scheduled, I believe, 4 meetings for December, 4 meetings for January. We obviously avoid Christmas and New Year's, since none of us would be here.
Yeah,
And, probably 1 for February, and then March, we'll have election day, and then we'll meet at the end of March just for our reformation meeting. But, the council will be picking a new rep at that point anyway, so.
I'll put it even in layman's terms, the 26th of November through the 17th of December, block out those Mondays. Don't know if we'll need them all, but
Okay, well,
Block
it
'em out.
definitely helps to
yeah,
have a
and
ballpark.
yeah, that's what, like, block them out, and then I would say like the 7th and the 14th of January, block them out depending on, because by the 14th, everything has to be baked. We don't know when the deliberative session will be, but by the 14th, all the budgets for both the town has to be approved by the 31st of December typically, and the school can be a week or so later. So I would just tell you, and if everything is smooth, as Dan's saying, it might only be a couple Mondays. I don't know if it'll be that way this year. So,
Yeah.
I would plan every Monday, and, like, I know we shifted to Wednesdays because of weather, whatever we have to do, but typically it was every Monday, the end of November, beginning of December, to get it
Right.
done.
Said, and again, it all works backwards from
Yep,
voting day.
yep, exactly.
So as soon as I can get that information from Steve, I'll let everyone know when to schedule the snow plowing for
Okay.
in March, so. Luke?
Also, just another point to make is, in years past, the Budget Committee has asked the town administrator to bring in certain department heads and leave out certain department heads during the budgeting process, so we can ask questions if there's big line items or big items with a certain department. And if there is nothing in a certain department, we're not wasting that department head's time. We can zip through it real quick, be done with it, all gone, all said and done.
All right.
So we can kind of hit the big giant bullets instead of just going through line by line the entire thing. Yeah, so it's a pretty easy process.
Well, that's good.
No, that's a very good point. In past years, the head of DPW, the head of fire, the head of the police department have typically been department heads because they do control the largest budgets, as well as the one who heads wastewater.
And then you'll go through the whole budget process with Steve and the council during
Oh, yeah.
October. So, yeah, you'll be like
You'll see
numb
it.
to it by
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
But we'll be asking you questions
Yep.
then as well.
Yeah, that's
as
why
we're
I'm here.
preparing to, so, you'll be well versed in it by the time we get to it.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Right. Thank you for the question.
Of course.
Any others or items of business?
So the 24th is the next meeting,
Yes,
September 24th?
September 24th. I'll try to get an agenda out within the next week. I think before we got on camera, our recording secretary couldn't be here tonight, so she'll need to transcribe the minutes off the audio tape, so those might be a little delayed beyond what we normally see,
Okay.
but expect them in the next couple of weeks, I guess. All right. Hearing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Blue.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Demont. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Start.